Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Bienvenidas, bienvenidos, bienvenidas. Okay, so everybody, welcome to the session. We're gonna get started. Welcome today to worker co-ops around the world. We are going to go over some basic tools and guidelines for participating in this session now, and then we will get it kicked off. Hold on just one moment. Sorry, folks. So first things first, this session is a bilingual session. That means we are doing interpretation in both English and Spanish today. We have a panel, a wonderful panel that will be sharing information in English and in Spanish today. So if you are not bilingual, comfortably bilingual in Spanish and English today, we have an amazing tool that we are using through Zoom together with our interpreters from Tilde Language Justice Co-op. And we are going to show you now how to activate that tool so that you can listen in both languages. And I am going to repeat this message in Spanish briefly, and then I'm going to turn it over to the interpreters to explain how to connect. So, buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches a todos y todas que están aquí participando. Nada más para que sepan, este panel y nuestros ponentes fabulosos van a estar comunicándonos su información en dos idiomas el día de hoy. Vamos a estar haciendo el panel en inglés y en español. Entonces, todas las personas que no se sienten 100% cómodas hablando en los dos idiomas, por favor, presten atención porque les vamos a enseñar cómo prender la función de Zoom y vamos a estar trabajando con unos intérpretes increíbles de la Cooperativa de Justicia del Lenguaje Tilde. Entonces ahora voy a pasar la voz a las intérpretes para que nos expliquen brevemente cómo se puedan prender esta función de Zoom.
So to turn on the Zoom function that you want, if you're not bilingual, you'll go to the bottom of your screen on if it's a computer and click on the globe, and then you'll click on the language in which you would like to listen. And then if you are listening or connected via telephone, on your control panel, click on the 3 dots or more, then choose language interpretation and indicate in which language you would like to listen, be it English or Spanish. And at the end, click done. Si usted no es bilingüe, sigue esas instrucciones para escuchar la interpretación. Si está utilizando una computadora, haga clic en el globo. Después haga clic en el idioma que quisiera escuchar. Y para no escuchar el original del audio, haga clic en mute original del audio. Si está escuchando desde un teléfono, en sus controles, haga clic en los 3 puntitos o más y después elija Language Interpretation, interpretación de idioma, indica el idioma en que quiere escuchar, sea en inglés o español. Y al final hay que hacer clic en Done o Hecho. Yeah.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. So a few other quick tools for this session. If you are having any problems using your Zoom or interpretation function, any sort of technical issues, you're going to go ahead and contact our tech and language support person, which for this session will be me. If you have any questions for the session or about the session or for the presenters, you're going to contact our moderator. And you can do that by clicking on the chat window then you're going to click send to. And if it's a question about technology or about language, you're going to send the message to tech and language support. If it's a question for the panel, you're going to go ahead and send it to the person titled moderator. And then you're going to type your question and you're going to hit send. Here on the screen right now, you should be seeing instructions of how you can send those messages through a computer or and also through your phone. And lastly, we just want to remind you that you can connect with us for this last part of the conference through the Slack channel we have online. You can go to conference.coop and you can see instructions for how to join our Slack channel by clicking on join the conversation, or in Spanish, empecemos la conversación. Check your emails because we will be doing a closing and then a party after this session. So thank you all so very much. And I'm going to pass it off to the presenters now to kick us off.
Hello, I guess it's my turn now. So hello, everyone. I'm happy to be the facilitator of this workshop today. I'm based in Europe, in Brussels, Belgium. So it's 9 p.m. For me. So I say good evening to all of you. I'm very happy to see some familiar faces of cooperators from different countries around the world, and also to meet new ones. I'm also happy to see that we have something like 70 people listening to us. It's a bit frustrating because you don't see the faces, but we feel your energy. We feel that you're with us. So hello to all of you. My name is Diana Dovgan. I'm the Secretary General of SICOPA. SICOPA is the international organization representing and promoting worker cooperatives. We are a member-based organization. We have members a bit all around the world, actually in 32 countries, in Europe, in North, South Americas, in Asia, Pacific, and in Africa. We represent, our network represents something like 65,000 worker co-ops across the world, which employ in turn 4 million workers. This is already something, a great number, but we know that the phenomenon of worker co-ops is even bigger around the world. Those figures are just for our organization, so we count only members that are part of our network, but we know that around the world, worker co-ops employ something like 20 million workers, which is then even more considerable. Worker co-ops around the world have, in some countries, there are new phenomenons. In some other countries, they exist for more than 100 years. But they also have in common some features, like protecting the workers, giving them the most secure working conditions, and most of all, giving them ownership through democratic governance and control. I won't be longer because I think we have very great speakers with us today. I will just introduce them briefly, and I will ask to them to say a few words to introduce them more in details. So we have Luis Alves from Uruguay. We have Olga Oyer from Kenya. We have Berkin Sener from Turkey. And we are expecting, we hope that our colleague from Japan, Osamu Nakano, will be able to join us during the meeting. So I will ask the three speakers now just to give some introductory words to present them, and then we start with the workshop. I will have some questions I will have many questions for them, and I hope as well you will have some questions for them, because we want this session to be also very interactive. We want to also to hear you, to read you, because you can ask questions in the chat to the moderator for questions. So, Luis, please introduce yourself.
Buenas noches para Diana, es un gusto verte. Es un saludo desde acá, desde mi país, Uruguay, Montevideo. Estoy en la frontera de Montevideo, en la periferia este, digamos, de Montevideo, con Canelones, frente a hermosas playas que tiene nuestro país. Es un honor poder participar en este encuentro de trabajadores y trabajadoras del mundo que tomaron la decisión de no ser trabajadores dependientes, sino de ser trabajadores y trabajadoras cooperativas, integrados a la gran familia de la economía social y solidaria del mundo. Así que un gran honor. Mi cooperativa de base es un liceo, es un centro de estudio secundario para adultos. Está pensado para las personas que en edad temprana no pudieron culminar sus estudios secundarios, y aprovechando programas de educación formal que tiene nuestro país, esta cooperativa brinda ese servicio. Y bueno, orgulloso de integrar el mundo cooperativo del 2012, pertenezco a una organización federada que se llama Federación de Cooperativas de Producción del Uruguay, que tiene 50 años. Y mi país tiene 200 años, así que tiene la cuarta parte de la vida de mi país, el sistema cooperativo de segundo grado federado de trabajo en Uruguay. Es un honor y es un orgullo integrar también la Confederación Uruguaya de Cooperativas, que es la organización de tercer grado de mi país que nuclea a todo el cooperativismo uruguayo, más de 1,5 millones de personas, más de la mitad de la población del Uruguay integrada al sistema cooperativo. También es un honor y es un orgullo integrar el Consejo de las Américas de ASI, de la Alianza Cooperativa Internacional, representando al Comité SICOPA, del cual en este momento soy el presidente para la región Américas. Muchísimas gracias y un saludo a los organizadores, un saludo también a la tarea difícil que tiene la cooperativa de traductores, así que nos permite, entre otras cosas, mantener la solidaridad de la comunicación.
Thank you, Luis. Now I give the floor to Olga. Olga, can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you very much, Diana and Luis, for going ahead of me. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings from Kenya. We're really excited to be here. My name is Olga Oyer. I'm the country lead for Kenya and Policy and Legislative Affairs Specialist for the Global Communities Cooperative Leadership Engagement Advocacy and Research Program. Global Communities is an American international NGO that operates just outside Washington, DC. It was originally known as the Cooperative Housing Foundation, and it's been supporting over 65,000 housing units in the USA. Currently, Global Communities is operational in 26 countries and has been in existence for 60 years. Global Communities in Kenya has 2 main programs. The first one is funded by the US Department for Agriculture, and it's called the Agribusiness Investment for Market Stimulation Program, AIMS. And the second is the USAID funded CLEAR program that I've just introduced. Our program has been operating in Kenya since 2018, and we have 3 main objectives. The first one, we create an enabling environment for cooperatives by supporting local government policy and legislation for cooperatives. And the second objective, which really is the reason why I'm here today, is we have a passion to support the growth of worker-owner cooperatives within Kenya. In Kenya, worker-owner cooperatives is a new concept. It's more or less an innovation, and I see members from the cooperative movement in Kenya. Thank you for joining the call, and my colleagues at Global Communities. And then the objective of our program is to create a for sustainability even after the program. We are happy to be working in Kenya. Kenya is in East Africa and is a hub within the region. And we have a population of about 53 million, over 53 million people as of mid this year, going by the United Nations data. We have a new constitution. We call it new, but it's now 10 years old, but we began the devolved system of government in 2013 through the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And our key sectors are agriculture, tourism, transport, horticulture, sports, and tourism. And so we're happy to be here, and you know, our world is more interconnected today than it ever was before, and so at any point in history. And so we always consider, we must always consider ourselves a part of a global movement, and particularly in developing countries where the worker-owner cooperative model is still fairly new. I'd like to just encourage us, you know, share your story, share your time and expertise in inspiring others, because even for us who are still growing within the worker cooperatives in Kenya, we would want to be engaged in the global movement and to learn from your experiences as well. Diana, I'll be sharing more during the session, and I hope to interact more. We only have 3 worker-owner cooperatives fully registered, but we have a pipeline of other worker cooperatives in the making. And so we're going to be sharing the perspective from and the challenges from, you know, where we sit as a growing sector in the economy. Thank you, Diana.
Thank you, Olga. If I may just add a little question, can you tell me about the 3 worker co-ops? In which kind of sectors they're active? What do they do?
Great. The first worker co-op we have that's, you know, that's a bit, we can say it's a bit older than the others, is in the solar energy sector. It's called Women in Solar Energy and Entrepreneurship. They do solar installation, solar panel installation. And the second cooperative is in edutainment. They provide, you know, educational entertainment. And it's primarily run and owned by youth. And the third cooperative is run by fundis. Fundis, quote unquote, is a Kenyan term that you know, refers to artisans, carpenters, and masons, and all those skilled laborers within the construction industry.
Many thanks, Olga. We'll have time to come back to you and ask more questions. Berkin, since the 2 other speakers have already a bit anticipated, I invite you to do the same. Can you present yourself and also give few words about worker co-ops in Turkey, please?
Okay, perfect. Greetings, everyone. Greetings from Turkey, from Istanbul. My name is Berkin. I'm a co-founder, worker, owner at Youth Deal Cooperative, Turkey's first youth-led social cooperative. We are supporting the underserved communities with training and advisory support services. These underserved communities in Turkey include primarily Syrian refugees, which is a burning issue right now since the beginning of the crisis in Syria, since roughly 2011. My cooperative was founded in February 2015, when, and since then, the situation has not changed much. The youth unemployment rate was at significant levels. Today, we have 26% of youth unemployment rate in the country. Likewise, among women, especially in rural areas, we are seeing very low rates of labor force participation. And of course, there are many other segments in the population that are significantly left behind of the employment opportunities, livelihoods, and access to social protection. So we have configured the social cooperative and worker cooperative idea in our own country as an attempt to solve, as an organizational form, to solve these social and economic exclusion problem. In parallel, there has been a growing movement in Turkey. While I was preparing for this conference, I came across to the numbers and realized how significant increase in the number of worker cooperatives we have seen in the last decade in Turkey. Turkey, of course, did have a considerable cooperative heritage from the late Ottoman Empire, beginning of the Republic, but as an organizational form, in the form of a worker cooperative, in its distinct meaning, we have seen, it won't be a mistake to say, a hike in the number of worker cooperatives and interest in the number for the worker cooperatives and employee ownership in general. This is of course not a coincidence because of the sad economic challenges of the country. Today, my cooperative, alongside other partners, not rivals, quote unquote, or not competitors, but our allies in the cooperative ecosystem, we are working towards empowering generally rural women, unemployed youth, people with disabilities, indigenous people, people coming from different backgrounds, LGBTI, and of course, Syrian refugees, migrants, and internally displaced people. Let me stop here, and we can talk about it later. Thank you, and greetings, everyone.
Thank you, Birkin. Do you have any estimation of number of worker co-ops active in Turkey today?
Good question. Actually, we don't have robust statistics in Turkey, which we can later on, I hope, discuss with, including Sikopa. This is a challenge in front of us, actually, in terms of cooperative statistics. But I can say that in terms of general cooperative numbers, we are talking about 7.5 million people as cooperative members in our country, which is composed of 82 million people currently. And we are talking about an annual turnover of 300 million euros, including agricultural and housing cooperatives, which is a significant number compared to other European countries. In terms of worker co-ops, only in the first half of 2020, 260 cooperatives were founded, which can be considered as worker co-op in Turkey.
Wow, this is impressive. We'll come back to this later. I'm just checking if our colleague from Japan has joined us, but I don't think so. Otherwise, I hope one of the moderators will give me a sign. So we continue the discussion with our three speakers, and I come back to Luis. Luis, you already a bit introduced the situation in Uruguay, but can you give us a bit more information about the worker cooperatives movement in your country? I mean, I know already quite a lot, but I think that our participant will be happy to hear a bit, not just figures, but also can you explain a bit in which sectors the worker co-ops are active? And also, can you give us some information about the worker cooperative economy in Uruguay? What challenges are you facing? What successes have you seen over the last years? Yes, please.
Bueno, la pregunta es bastante amplia, por lo que gracias a la experiencia cooperativa de esta región, y no es solamente de Uruguay, podemos decir que el mundo cooperativo de trabajo tiene casi 100 años. Y quizá también eso se deba a cómo se fue conformando la población de esta región, fundamentalmente a mediados del siglo XIX y hasta el comienzo del siglo XX, con una llegada de una oleada migratoria de Europa que conformó nuestro tipo de población, en las que en realidad a principios del siglo XX llegó mucho socialista, anarquista, que venía disparando de Europa por los problemas de persecución ideológica, pero también por los problemas de la crisis económica, del hambre y la guerra. Y esos hombres y esas mujeres que llegaron en un barco acá, trajeron ideas, y entre esas ideas, entre la alforja o el bolso que traían, venía la idea del cooperativismo y la idea también de lo que podemos decir nosotros el mutualismo. Organizaciones que tienen como fin y como objetivo brindar mejor calidad de vida uniendo los recursos de las personas. Y este es el motivo por lo cual los pioneros de Rothschild, allá por 1844, lanzaron la primer cooperativa. Y quizá la experiencia que recoge Uruguay, Argentina, Brasil, Chile, puede estar muy, muy ligada al tipo de población y a la conformación ideológica de ese tipo de población que fue integrándose el Uruguay. Mi país actualmente tiene más de 1 millón de personas, más de la mitad de su población vinculada al sistema cooperativo. El sistema cooperativo de trabajo es el segundo sistema más fuerte en cuanto a números de integrantes cooperativos, y el primero es el sistema cooperativo de vivienda. En una estamos hablando de unas 2.000 cooperativas más o menos, y en el mundo del trabajo estamos cerca de las 800 cooperativas en total, de las cuales 300 son integradas a FCPU, o sea, a la Federación de Cooperativas de Producción del Uruguay. En Argentina los números son mucho más altos, entre otras cosas porque es una población mucho más mayor que la nuestra, pero también recoge una larga tradición en torno al cooperativismo, y quizá las políticas públicas de los últimos, del comienzo del siglo hasta el 2015, promovía y desarrollaba el sistema cooperativo como una alternativa al trabajo empresarial anterior, fundamentalmente en el área de la industria. Ustedes saben que esta región, tanto Brasil como Argentina y Uruguay, durante los gobiernos de izquierda que se tuvo, se promovió el tema de las cooperativas de trabajo que sustituían a las viejas empresas con empresarios. Es decir, trabajar en la generación de empleo a partir del sistema de autogestionario de nuestras fábricas. Este fue un modelo que se intentó desarrollar, aún perdura, pero bueno, en esta crisis con el COVID-19, bueno, se está pasando por un mal momento con respecto a este tipo de empresas, y también los cambios de gobierno que han tenido en Argentina y Brasil llevaron a que este modelo en realidad no sea bien aceptado, y por lo tanto su promoción y desarrollo ha quedado un poco relegada. De todas maneras, nosotros estamos seguros como Sicopa y como organización de cooperativas de nivel de América, que en esta situación actual que se vive con el COVID-19, en donde el comercio ha caído un 17%, que el sistema de comercio, cuando cae en su intercambio internacional, afecta directamente a la manufactura, indudablemente va a tener que encontrar salidas, y esas salidas son básicamente cooperativas. El modelo autogestionario que yo les contaba recién son hoy una alternativa y una posibilidad, ya que muchos empresarios de empresas internacionales grandes que ni siquiera viven en el continente, al no tener las ganancias que quieren tener, se retiran de sus inversiones, las fábricas se cierran y los trabajadores quedan sin trabajo. Entonces hoy el sistema cooperativo aparece como una alternativa indispensable para sostener el empleo. Pero la característica que además esto tiene es que nosotros podemos sostener el empleo pero el empleo formal. No estamos hablando del empleo de cualquier forma donde la desregulación laboral lleva a la sobreexplotación de los trabajadores y trabajadoras, sino que estamos hablando de un sistema solidario que a su vez necesita integrarse a las políticas públicas de empleo en todo el mundo, fundamentalmente en nuestro continente, para ser una salida real a lo que hoy el mundo va a enfrentar en términos de empleabilidad de aquí en más. Más de 2.7 millones de empresas van a cerrar en este continente y esto implica 450.000 trabajadores, perdón, 4.5 millones de trabajadores y trabajadoras que van a quedar sin empleo. Estas son las proyecciones de la CEPAL. Y estas proyecciones hacen que hace muy poco Asia Américas estuviera reunida con el presidente, el secretario general de la OEA, y ante ello nosotros presentamos las posibilidades de trabajar en conjunto con la OEA para la orientación y elaboración de políticas públicas con hipótesis de máxima para poder trabajar fundamentalmente en lo que tiene que ver con América del Sur y el Caribe. Y también planteamos una realidad concreta que tiene que ver con Estados Unidos y Canadá, fundamentalmente Estados Unidos, porque dentro de las preocupaciones que se manifiestan está precisamente la situación de los migrantes. Cuando ustedes saben que se afecta el empleo y se afecta de esta manera, el tema de la migración tiende a crecer de manera desregulada y quienes en realidad se ven desfavorecidos son una gran masa de trabajadores que pierde su trabajo en su lugar de origen y que después busca un trabajo o un empleo como para poder sostenerse. Esto es un tema que está en la agenda de la ASI y está en la agenda también para seguir estudiando y desarrollando entre un nuevo acuerdo firmado entre Cooperativa de las Américas y la CEPAL. Ustedes saben que es la agencia de estudios económicos por excelencia más legítima que tiene América a la hora de brindar datos y apoyar o ayudar a quienes elaboran políticas públicas a que tengan en cuenta, entre otras cosas, la medida del cooperativismo de trabajo como un factor, como un elemento imprescindible para poder sostener al mundo del trabajo cooperativo, sostener a trabajadores y trabajadoras que no conocen el sistema cooperativo, pero que puedan tener un empleo digno y un empleo, obviamente, estable, pero además ese empleo va a tener también la estabilidad del Estado, transformarse en un empleo formal. Así que estas son las situaciones que más o menos nosotros podemos estar hoy trabajando como Sicopa a nivel de distintas organizaciones desde la Argentina hasta Canadá.
Thank you, Luis. If I just may ask to the speakers to slow down when you speak, because this is a request from our interpreters to facilitate them their work. It's important that we speak a bit slower than usual. I know it's hard when you speak with your heart, like Luis, and your passion, but please, let's try to make their work as well a bit easier. I don't know, Olga, how this question is relevant for you about the worker co-op economy in your country, since you have 3 worker co-ops, but I think maybe it would be interesting for us to hear, you said there are 3 worker co-ops. I guess you're working on new projects, or at least you're promoting and trying to maybe to support maybe some people in creating worker co-ops, if this is something your organization is doing. What do you think, to which kind of challenges worker co-ops can answer in Kenya today?
Thank you very much, Diana. Maybe just to start off with the first bit of the question in terms of the worker co-op economy, traditionally and from the early, from about the early 1920s, the cooperative movement began in Kenya. Since then, the strength has been, the producer cooperatives, primarily because we are based along the equator. And so we have good weather for crop production and horticulture. So that's where we began from. But given right now, the worker cooperative economy in Kenya is such that public policy is shifting. And there's an earlier session I was seated in, and the speaker talked about the crisis in Argentina, having provided an opportunity to spur the economy using the worker cooperative model. And that's the situation in Kenya right now with the COVID-19 crisis. Yes, it's a crisis, and we do feel, we do mourn the loss of people through this virus, but at the same time, it's provided an opportunity to shift the perspective of work and to also provide for innovations. And so there are high-level conversations going on regarding, how can we improve the policy and legislative framework to have more worker cooperatives registered, formed, and fully operational. What can global communities do to support that, since we have a mandate to provide support to worker owner cooperatives? To the second bit of your question regarding, are there pipeline cooperatives? Yes, our program has been working with, let me start off by saying Kenya, in its devolved system of government, has 47 county governments, which are the local governments. And the 47 local governments also need to create their own source revenue. And so, they look towards licensing and registration, incorporation of business as providing some of this own source revenue. And so, there's only so much the government can tax existing, cooperatives, right? And so there's need to innovate. And so the county governments are currently trying to find ways to create new worker cooperatives or to support. And as global communities USA Clear program, there are some pipeline worker owner cooperatives in the area of cleaning and fumigation services. We have engineers we have a group of engineers who want to come together to form a worker owner cooperative, and cab drivers who want to form a cooperative as well. And one of the most unique ones that we have is in one of our counties. It's called Nyeri. It's along the slopes of Mount Kenya. And a lot of tourists like coming to climb Mount Kenya. And so there's a mountain climbers and porters association that is looking to transform into a worker owner cooperative. So we do have those in the pipeline that we aspire to also support as a cooperative. I mean, as a as global communities. Excuse me, it's going to 11 p.m. in my time. But having said that, what challenges do we face? Obviously, this is like pioneering in our country, worker owner cooperatives. We do face challenges with that because we still need to sensitize the population and our local government workers and the State Department for Cooperatives more on how this model really works. Because in Kenya, aside from the producer cooperatives, our credit unions are really strong. And the moment you speak of cooperatives in Kenya, the first thought that comes to mind is our credit unions, which are referred to as savings and credit cooperatives here in Kenya. So we do have challenges of access to finance for the cooperatives, and even just that startup capital and the startup resources to get going. Another key challenge is within the areas of management and governance. And obviously, when the worker cooperative, owner cooperative is starting off, they want to start off, really small, and you have overlaps that the chair of the cooperative also plays the role of the manager. And of course, if finances are tight, then they're less likely to hire a professional to do the management or the bookkeeping. Amongst other challenges, we have lack of awareness. And then, so what we're doing in order to mitigate some of these challenges is Global Communities has partnered with DAWI, the Democracy at Work Institute, and one of the academic institutions here in Kenya, the Cooperative University of Kenya, to come up with curricula so that it's also the worker owner cooperative model is taught within the university curricula and to entrench it therein. We have also partnered with Strathmore University Business School to do a public policy making process training, in which we've included a module on the worker owner cooperatives, just to start off sensitizing, because this training covers, the local government ministers, their deputies and the officers. And in every class, we have 5 counties represented, and the current class has about 60 participants. And so we're starting the sensitization at that level. And some of the local government officers are even on this call, and they have committed to establish more and support more worker owner cooperatives going forward. So this conference also provides an opportunity for us to learn and to network, with other worker owner cooperatives. And I'm glad to have met Louise and Birkin here, and you, Diana, because these are opportunities for collaborations so that we can strengthen the cooperative movement in Kenya and globally. Thanks, Diana.
Thank you, Olga. I already see some questions arriving from the audience, but as I said, we're going to keep it at the end of the interactions, but please continue asking questions. I'm happy to see that our speakers are inspiring you. Berkin, you said something, you ended previously by saying something quite impressive, that 260 new worker co-ops have been created since the beginning of the year. Is that correct? Yeah. How do you explain this phenomenon? It seems that there might be either like some very strong support from the state, some incentives, or some also very important challenges that those cooperatives are answering. So yes, how do you explain this trend?
Thank you, Diana, for this question. Actually, to explain this increase, it would be also wise to look at the other forms of companies, whether they also increased or not. And let me give you the number. Compared to the previous, the first 6 months of the previous year, we see a 15% increase in the number of joint stock companies. Whereas among cooperatives, this increase becomes 26%. I think this finding is striking. So looking at the joint stock companies, it's 15% increase. Whereas when it comes to cooperatives, it's 26%. What can explain this positive discrepancy or positive divergence in favor of cooperatives? I think the state support is not one of the explanations. In Turkey, unfortunately, there is no specific support scheme coming from the government incentivizing communities or people getting organized under cooperatives. Rather, I think an explanation would be the increased communal needs among the people. As you know, the starting point for a cooperative formation is common needs and realization of those common needs. And I think pandemic, with all its adverse impacts on our societies, one of the positive externality is that people started realizing the need for solidarity, the need for acting together, and the realization or the awareness of the common needs. And the automatic response towards these common needs can hardly be limited liability companies or joint stock companies. The automatic response would be cooperatives. And cooperative movement in Turkey, with all its positive, promising examples and negative, unpromising examples from the history, today, we as a humble part of the cooperative support ecosystem, I can say that there are very strong institutions, initiatives, grassroots organizations, not only in urban areas, but also in rural areas. They are doing their best to support cooperative formation. This includes legal advisory support, knowledge support and advisory in terms of the best practices, how to do things, even speaking about very tiny technical details. It goes towards how to gain new members, worker owners, the sense of community, etc. If there is one untapped potential in Turkey, I can say that this is financing. Financing of newly formed cooperatives and financing for struggling cooperatives at times of crisis remains an avenue that requires some improvement. And actually, this is one of the areas that we are seeking some international cooperation, including Democracy at Work Institute and US Federation of Worker Cooperatives, as well as other European partners, how we can find a solution basically to the financing problem, going beyond the funding schemes and going beyond the members' contributions to set up and run the cooperatives.
Thank you, Birkin. Another question, maybe I will start with Luis. With this one, is what is currently your situation with the government? How the current government is supporting worker cooperatives, and what recognition do you have from the government in your country? And then I will be ask the same question to the other panelists, although Olga, for example, already approached a bit this. But let's start with Luis, please.
Ahora sí, bien. Decir que mi país y que en la región, en realidad, desde mi lugar de Copa América, podemos ver diferentes situaciones en diferentes países. Decir que en Uruguay en realidad ha habido cambio de gobierno, pero el hecho de que exista una legislación votada en el 2008 que entre otras cosas, dispone que el Poder Legislativo ordene hacia lo que va a ser el Poder Ejecutivo, el gobierno, que exista un Instituto Nacional de Cooperativas, que las leyes también protejan al sistema cooperativo de trabajo en todo lo que tiene que ver con las políticas tributarias, que este instituto a su vez tenga recursos como para atender esto que hablaba Berkin recién, ¿no? Digamos, que el financiamiento de las cooperativas es en esencia la necesidad de la política pública. Es decir, nosotros podemos disponer de muchas bondades cooperativas y muchos trabajadores y trabajadoras decidirán hacerse cooperativas. Ahora, sin capital no hay trabajo. Y esto es viejo como el agujero del mate. No hay posibilidad de tener una empresa cooperativa si no tenemos capital. Los estados deben de alguna manera proyectar y proyectarse en el cooperativismo generando espacios de financiamiento. Digamos, la gran concentración de capital en pocas manos hace del mundo lo que es. Lo que nosotros proponemos como sistema cooperativo, incluso teniendo un sistema de cooperativas de ahorro y crédito en todo el mundo, es precisamente demostrar al mundo que hay otras posibilidades de generar capital y que ese capital esté al servicio, ya no del cooperativismo, sino de la sociedad en general. Quizá este es el mayor desafío que tenemos nosotros en nuestras organizaciones cooperativas, en nuestras organizaciones de segundo grado, es precisamente hacer reconocer en los cooperativistas y las cooperativistas y también en la sociedad en general esta importancia del sistema cooperativo. El sistema cooperativo, para que ustedes vean, bueno, Diana, como decimos acá en Uruguay, mi hermana que no me deja mentir, decimos nosotros, ¿no? Le puedo decir, ella integra como secretaria general un gobierno mundial del sistema cooperativo de trabajo. No es cualquier lugar el que ocupa Diana, ni es una construcción hecha por la familia de Diana, sino que esa es una construcción realizada por los trabajadores y trabajadoras cooperativistas del mundo del trabajo desde hace muchísimas décadas, que llegaron a la conclusión de que en realidad hay una forma de organización global que debe defender al sistema cooperativo. Entonces, a los amigos de Estados Unidos que hoy nos invitan a estar en esta conferencia, agradecer la importancia que le dan a su gobierno global. Estar integrado a SICOPA, y a su vez SICOPA integra el World Mundial del Sistema Cooperativo, la ASI, es de enorme poder. Es en realidad pensar que la política pública solo respeta si los estados entienden cuál es el sistema de poder que manejan las masas a la hora de establecerse como cooperativas de trabajo. Es decir, este para mí ha de ser como uno de los grandes desafíos y me emociona muchísimo hablar de gobierno global, porque me reconozco en Kenia, me reconozco en Argentina, me reconozco en Colombia. De todas maneras, no en todos lados no va bien. Colombia tiene una legislación muy avanzada para el sistema cooperativo, pero tiene una política pública que realmente desmerece al sistema cooperativo. Entonces, debemos trabajar, y así lo hicimos el año pasado, desde el 2018, en conjunto con las organizaciones colombianas, desde el gobierno regional americano de ASI y también de SICOPA, trabajar intensamente para que el gobierno colombiano empezara a respetar al sistema cooperativo de trabajo, de acuerdo a disposiciones de otros gobiernos, de otras organizaciones unilaterales, como es la OIT, que es la Organización Internacional del Trabajo. La OIT, en su recomendación 193, le dice a los estados que deben promover y desarrollar el sistema cooperativo para el trabajo. Ahora, la OIT puede hacer una declaración muy bonita, pero si no hay organización internacional en el sistema cooperativo de trabajo y si no hay organización nacional a su vez que pueda respaldar esta acción internacional, nosotros perdemos fuerza ante los estados y esto hace que se promuevan un tipo de empresa que es de competencia y no un tipo de empresa de acción solidaria como implica el sistema cooperativo. Argentina ha sufrido un enorme retraso en su política pública en los últimos 4 gobiernos de reinstalación del neoliberalismo. Y debo decir una cosa y aclarar a todos quienes están escuchando esto. Yo como cooperativista me atengo al sistema, al perfil de la neutralidad. No tengo opinión partidaria política con respecto a esto. Lo que sí puedo decir es que la reinstalación de ese sistema desmotivó el desarrollo de las cooperativas, le sacó la inversión, perdieron empleo y hoy las cooperativas deben volver a recuperar su espacio para obtener trabajo. Esto es para nosotros importante, es entender cuál es para la población. Estados Unidos hoy va a pasar por unas elecciones y esas elecciones que tiene Estados Unidos entre Trump y el que venga es para el mundo muy importante. Y si los cooperativistas de Estados Unidos no entienden que su legislación o su gobierno pueden determinar en favor o no de una política pública que trate de brindarle apoyo a los trabajadores que se cooperativizan, es muy difícil que puedan lograr mucho más avance. El sistema cooperativo en sí puede tener las posibilidades, pero necesitamos de las políticas públicas, por lo que aún así, estando dentro del sistema de neutralidad, los cooperativistas y las cooperativistas del mundo eligen a sus gobiernos y por lo tanto deben ver cuál es el perfil que mejor se adapta a las necesidades que tiene el sistema cooperativo. Esto nos lleva a nosotros a una fase, también a analizar lo que pasó en Brasil. O sea, en Brasil hemos tenido cambios y esos cambios han llevado hoy a que en realidad también se bajara mucho el nivel de las cooperativas, el nivel de trabajo a nivel de contratación del Estado de cooperativas fundamentalmente sociales. Han habido por parte de las cooperativas brasileras un gran esfuerzo para poder mantener su lugar de trabajo, y aquí estamos hablando del sistema de cooperativas sociales. Lo han logrado, pero lo han logrado a esfuerzo de ellos, a esfuerzo de su lobby, a esfuerzo de mostrar buenos resultados con la tarea. Y esto es otra cosa esencial del sistema cooperativo de trabajo. Para ser cooperativistas y tener una cooperativa de trabajo, también debemos insistir en la educación interna de nuestras cooperativas y también debemos insistir que la palabra eficiencia no es una mala palabra para nuestras cooperativas. Debemos asumir el compromiso de trabajar, de tener democracia al interno de nuestras cooperativas y ser eficiente con aquellas tareas que nos proponemos hacer. Si es en la producción industrial, manufacturera, allí es. Y si es en el sector servicios, también es en ese lugar. Y quizá, uniendo esto último que digo a las necesidades de políticas de Estado, es solamente ese reflejo. Si nosotros nos sentamos a conversar con nuestros gobernantes con resultados en las manos, es mucho más fácil conquistar el espacio que el sistema cooperativo precisa, el sistema cooperativo de trabajo precisa en las políticas públicas de nuestros estados. En mi país hay una política de Estado con respecto al cooperativismo de trabajo y nuestras cooperativas están protegidas. Pero mi país, mi organización, decidió dar un paso de integrar Sicopa, de tener un lugar en este espacio, y esto implica el compromiso de que en realidad esto mismo suceda en otros países de mi continente y del mundo, porque además me toca en responsabilidad ser el vicepresidente de Sicopa Mundial. Gracias.
Thank you, Luis, for pointing out how much it's important to have adequate public policies, legislation, legal frameworks, which is not the case in many countries. In many countries, it's still impossible legally to set up a worker co-op because there's no proper legal framework. I know, for example, if our Japanese colleague was with us, he will certainly point out that, for example, this year in Japan, they just voted, actually it's still in discussion in the parliament, the bill for worker co-ops law, but it's already a big success that it was put on the agenda, and how much the worker co-ops movement in Japan was fighting for more than 20 years to have a proper legal framework. So this is also a very important element. So I pass the same question to Olga and then to Birkin about public policies and government support toward worker co-ops in your country.
Thank you, Diana. First of all, I would like to start off by agreeing with Louise that indeed there is need to have that harmonization of the policy and legislative environment from the international level to the national level and to the local level, because harmonization of policy and legislation is what will determine sustainability in the long run and reduce the fighting and back and forth. So more specifically, when it comes to Kenya, when we look at the policy and legislative environment, we can start off with the Constitution of Kenya 2010. In the fourth schedule of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, cooperatives are identified as one of the devolved functions, meaning that it's one of the functions that the local governments are to undertake. And so with that, right away in 2013, upon devolution, the county governments, the local governments began to roll out their own legislation, county-specific legislation. But one key win for worker-owner cooperatives in Kenya has been the national policy, the National Cooperatives Policy of 2019, primarily because it now calls out the worker-owner cooperatives as a distinct type of cooperative that can operate in Kenya. So that was one big win for us, because the previous legislation had, for us, the producer cooperatives are further disaggregated, into agri, and then all the way until the marketing cooperatives. But the current law, national law, didn't call out worker cooperatives. So when we would have worker cooperatives trying to register, they would be told, okay, so you either become a credit union or you become a marketing cooperative. Yet that's not what the owners wanted. And so that's a big win for worker owner cooperatives. We also have our National Development Blueprint, which is the Kenya Vision 2030, that identifies the private sector as the engine of growth. And so that gives a lot of emphasis for cooperatives, and the cooperative movement definitely is part of the private sector and that engine of growth. And now with the national policy having called out the worker cooperatives, that provides now, that's now the trigger for legal reform at the national level, just so that also the CAP 490, which is the national law for cooperatives, can receive a regulatory reform. The other thing about now cooperatives being devolved to become a local government function is that now the local governments have an opportunity to develop their own legislation for cooperatives. And as global communities, we've had an opportunity, we have an opportunity and are exploring that opportunity with the local governments to educate them more on the worker owner cooperatives, for their policy, their local government policy and legislation to call out worker owner cooperatives as well. So that's an opportunity that we are working on as a program, and also working with the cooperative movement, the private sector, the cooperative movement, and the county, the local government, to create inclusive and enabling legislation and policy so that the cooperatives can thrive, and also for the growth of the worker owner cooperative. Thanks, Diana.
Birkin, same question for you.
Thank you, Diana. Well, Turkey's law on cooperatives was issued in 1969. Apart from that, the remaining things are regulated by the law of trade and commerce. There is no major legal gap that needs to be filled for a worker cooperative to set up and to be operational. Nonetheless, part of our advocacy efforts were invested towards a regulation, not necessarily a law. This may not be required, but a legal regulation of the principles of social cooperatives and or worker cooperatives. In Turkey, there is, as we identify, there is a need for a regulated support by the government through some regulations, including those related with taxation, in order for cooperatives to be at the equal footing with other commercial companies. We have not been saying and advocating in our country and in international sphere that cooperatives should be treated differently from other commercial companies. The priority is to level the playing field for all the cooperatives, for all the companies, and to ensure a fair competition in the market, considering the fact that worker cooperatives are also providing their worker owners livelihoods and returns. Of course, there are avenues of improvement in Turkey's legal sphere as well. Apart from taxation, we are also advocating for the possibility of non-Turkish residents and non-Turkish citizens to be able to become a member of cooperatives, and on top of that, to be able to become a board member in the cooperatives. Currently, non-Turkish members, non-Turkish worker owners cannot become a member in the supervisory board and executive boards. This is a problem as we identify, considering especially the fact that we are hosting 4 million Syrian refugees right now in the country under temporary protection status, and they are opting for cooperative option to access to livelihoods. Unless they find a Turkish citizen or a citizen of Republic of Turkey, they are unable to basically run a cooperative. This is a challenge that remains in front of us. So let me stop here.
Thank you, Birkin. I see a lot of questions in the chat. So since we don't have much time and we have to finish on time this session, we have 20 minutes ahead. If you agree, I will read some of the questions. There's a first question that is for everyone. So just feel free to answer. I'm reading the question. Often the way people are used to democracy or the lack of democracy play out in smaller scale within organizations. I am wondering, says the people asking the question, what the panelists have seen in intra-organizational challenges based on the way democracy is framed in their countries and how they have met them. So a very good question about how do you deal with democracy or lack of democracy inside co-ops and how this reflects also the general context of your country. So I don't know who wants to answer to this question. This is a very sensitive question for worker co-ops. Of course, for all co-ops, but for worker co-ops, it has a very different, even a different resonance. Sorry, I'm using the word in English. Who wants to answer to this question? Olga, please. I see you unmute yourself.
Maybe I could start off. One of the intra-organizational challenges that we've seen so far in Kenya, and because our worker cooperatives are very young, allow me to just speak broadly because it is a sensitive matter, as you say. And the first issue is succession planning within the cooperatives. And you'll find, because we have the charismatic leader, or maybe, you know, the well-spoken person is the one who's chosen to be chair, and people don't want to keep let go of that person because they're going to be their representative or the face of the cooperative outside. Now, when it comes to succession planning, there's some benefits that come with being a chairperson of a cooperative, and you get to sit on certain other boards and the like. So what we've seen in our country play out is a lot of lobbying when it comes to time for AGM and election. And we've even had some instances where people just refuse to leave the leadership post because they've it's become somewhat a comfort zone. And so one way of resolving that is through, of course, policy and legislation. But there's only so much you can enforce using the law. And really, one aspect that we have taken to and we're supporting the local government to undertake is education of the members, to strengthen the membership, to know their rights and their responsibilities, and to exercise their rights, so that really we do ensure that we have that democracy within the cooperative.
Very good, thanks, Olga. Birkin or Luis? Birkin, I see raise his hand first.
Yeah, very briefly. Very briefly. Two things from our observations. One is negotiation. The lack of people's inclination to negotiate, I think, is very visible, at least in our reality. When it comes to decision making, at least in our country, in the cooperative reality, people are not inclined automatically or a priori to negotiate, but rather more inclined to form some coalitions and form some groups, exercise basic democracy, basic voting. Who gets more votes rules. That's it. It's fairly simple. This is basically a challenge in front of consent-based democracy and consent-based decision making, and a direction towards consensus. The other thing is basically consent that I take note of. The decision making and formation of ideas among worker owners are rather more sticky and are rather more self-aware and not dynamic, static. I think that way because I think that way. It's like it emanates in and of itself, and it's really hard to change it. There is no automatic inclination to basically empathize, question yourself, and consent other people's priorities, other people's needs. And we already know the fact that self-acclaimed needs and insistence on personal needs and personal requirements is not the way to go in cooperatives, period.
Luis, do you have something to add on this challenge of dealing with democracy inside cooperatives? Are you with us? Yes, you're with us. Luis, I see you, but I can't hear you. Otherwise, we can maybe... Is it okay, Luis? Are you ready to... Yeah?
Hola,
Okay.
sí, se me había cortado la señal, así que bueno, ahora estoy de vuelta. ¿Se me escucha bien? Bien. Decir que hay algunas cosas en torno a la democracia que son como muy fundamentales. Nuestras organizaciones no sobreviven sin democracia. De hecho, el primer principio cooperativo es: el miembro debe estar de acuerdo con integrar una cooperativa. Si no hay una aceptación de la persona para una cooperativa, nadie le puede imponer el sistema cooperativo. Y digamos, esto es una acción democrática en los valores del sistema cooperativo. Según Yuval al-Hariri, ese historiador extraordinario que tiene el mundo, dice que una de las cosas que hizo que nuestra especie fuera la especie que sobrevive y dominante en la Tierra es el principio de cooperación. Y dice este historiador que si nosotros ponemos 60.000 chimpancés en un estadio con bananas en el medio, ni aún así podrán organizarse y hacer silencio para ver un espectáculo. En cambio, si ponemos 60.000 personas y 22 jugadores, hay cooperación para hacer silencio, ver el espectáculo y además cantar. Esto me lleva a a algo utópico, a una reflexión utópica. Sin duda alguna, para mí, el sistema, la Tierra, nosotros como organización no, nosotros como seres humanos, tenemos la mejor organización posible en nuestra historia y se llama Estado. Que con los cambios tecnológicos y con todo lo que estamos viviendo, esta organización social que hemos creado tiembla en su estructura. Pero el mundo se debate entre estados cerrados nacionales y estados globales. ¿Qué contradicción? Nosotros hablamos desde el sistema cooperativo de gobiernos globales. Y quizá ahí está una de las cuestiones más interesantes para que nosotros nos pensemos democráticamente hacia el interior de nuestra organización y también en la democracia, en lo que tiene que ver con la construcción de nuestros estados, de cada país donde vivimos, relacionados con otros, fundamentalmente en el comercio. Y sin duda alguna, que las empresas cooperativas tienen, utilizando el sentido de Yuval Harari, un valor interesante. Nosotros tenemos como principio, primero cooperar, segundo cooperar, tercero cooperar y cuarto cooperar. Por lo que en realidad nuestra sobrevivencia como sistema o como organización de trabajo para el trabajo está garantida en la medida que nosotros cooperemos, porque la humanidad entera ha logrado lo que ha logrado en base a la cooperación. Es un concepto complejo. El de la democracia es un concepto difícil. Y es verdad que nosotros nos peleamos ante situaciones increíbles. Alguien que quiere quedarse en el cargo, quiere mantenerse siendo presidente. Ahora, no estados han incorporado en el derecho al sistema cooperativo con los valores de la propiedad privada. Entonces, nosotros tenemos un sistema que es piramidal en nuestra organización legal, pero tenemos en esencia las ganas de trabajar y de ser una organización horizontal. Ahora, si mi país me obliga a que yo tenga un presidente, un secretario, un vicepresidente, etcétera, y toda una estructura piramidal montada en una organización cooperativa, estamos en constante disputa hacia el interior de nuestra propia conciencia cooperativa entre el sistema normativo de los estados que favorecen el desarrollo de la propiedad privada y nuestras ganas de tener una organización que tenga un corte de cooperación horizontal entre sus miembros. Y es tan así que nosotros podemos cuestionar a muchas cooperativas que empezaron siendo cooperativas y luego terminaron explotando a sus propios trabajadores por no entender que el sistema cooperativo es de solidaridad y es un espacio para que tengamos un trabajo digno y formal en cada uno de nuestros países. Estas son las contradicciones que debemos llevar adelante, vivir con ellas, pero no debemos perder de perspectiva que lo único que nos garantiza la sobrevivencia es la democracia.
Thank you, Luis. I guess those are the very good concluding remarks, and I'm happy that you're finish our discussion on this on those words. Unfortunately, we have to finish. When we talk about the things we love and we believe in, time is always run too fast. I'm sorry for the people who send some questions in the chat, but maybe moderators can find a way to pass a question. There was a question for Olga and one for Vicky. Maybe there's a way to send the questions by email later. I was very pleased to listen to you. I also finished this session with a bit of frustration because many things that were said also raised to new questions, but thanks to three of you, it was very, very great to hear you and hear testimonies from all around the world. Now I give the floor to the moderator who needs to make some announcement. So please, I don't know who will take the floor, but the floor is yours.
Muchas gracias a todo el mundo por compartir sus historias desde la perspectiva internacional. Muy inspiradora, inspiradora toda la información que compartieron. Y muchísimas gracias por unirse a la llamada en sus horarios diferentes. Yo sé que algunos de ustedes, si no estuvieran aquí, estarían durmiendo, o eso espero. Entonces, ojalá que ya se puedan ir a descansar un ratito. Muchísimas gracias de nuevo. Entonces, unos cuantos anuncios para los participantes que están aquí presentes. Vamos a hacer una cierre a la conferencia en comunidad y luego vamos a hacer una fiestita virtual, un fiestón virtual. Acabo de mandar por el chat el enlace al salón de Zoom que vamos a estar usando para la cierre. La cierre va a ser empezando a las 4:30 en 4 minutos y va a ser una cierre breve de 15 minutos. Entonces les invito a todos a que se unan a nuestra cierre al evento y la fiesta que va a ser en ese cuarto de Zoom. Y también les suplico, les invito, les animo a que rellenen nuestra evaluación de conferencia. Es nuestra primera vez organizando así un espacio virtual de esta magnitud, de este tamaño, y necesitamos sus comentarios, sus recomendaciones, sus ideas acerca de cómo podemos mejorar el espacio, qué es lo que funcionó, qué es lo que no funcionó. Entonces ahí también en el chat yo les puse el enlace para rellenar la evaluación. Es en español y en inglés, así que rellénenlo en el idioma que prefieren. Y si tienen preguntas, pueden mandar un mensaje directo por el chat hacia mí sobre los siguientes espacios. Y sí, muchísimas gracias de nuevo y nos vemos en la cierre.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you, everyone.
Chao, chao, muchas
Bye.
gracias.
Thank you, everyone.